Welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast, where we aim to ignite the fire that allows you to unleash your greatest potential. I'm your host, Dan McPherson, and I'm on a mission to help you own your story on the way to building your ideal life. The first step toward achieving your dreams is to overcome the momentum of zero. Take a step and let that motion dispel the emotions of fear, worry, or self-doubt. No matter where you are in your life or career, only you can make that choice. The good news, you've got this. Why? Because dreams are real. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Dreams Are Real podcast. I'm Dan McPherson, your host, and once again, we have a fantastic guest with us. Today, we have Joan Kaylor. Now, Joan, if you haven't heard of her, is the queen of emotional freedom techniques. She is a powerful podcaster. If you haven't listened to her podcast, Life Without Limits, make sure you get out there and get that done today. She is a friend of mine. She is a speaker. She is a trainer. She travels the world and she helps people solve many of the problems in their life and bring calm and a sense of order, including through her new practice of Feng Shui. So please join me in welcoming Joan. Well, good to have you here, Joan.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. It's so fantastic to be with you.
It is great to be with you. I'm excited to hear the parts of your story that I don't know and to share the parts that I do know with our audience. You have quite a compelling background, a history, and you are certainly a dreamer. You absolutely match the theme of what we do.
Yes. I love to dream, and along with your theme, dreams are real. Because when I get a dream, I stop at nothing to get it done, to manifest it.
Has that always been true? Was that true as a kid?
No, although I had this fire in my belly when I was 15. What happened was I started doing some volunteer work, and I realized that I really liked it. I was on this 24-hour hotline for teenagers. So if someone had a problem or they were afraid, they'd call this number. And then I was one of the volunteers who answered the phone. Then I talked them through it, whether it was a drug issue, whether it was a relationship issue, whether they just had broken up with their boyfriend, whether they were being bullied at school, whatever it was. So from there, I learned that I really liked helping people and I wanted to be a social worker.
Wow, and that must have led you to your path now. Before we dive into your origin story, and I certainly want to get there, share with our audience how you respond when other people ask what you do now. What's your answer?
First, I smile.
That's a good start.
And then I say, well, I help people get unstuck. I help people stop sabotaging themselves. I help people find out what their life passion is. So like you help people find their North Star, I want to help people find out what their life's purpose and passion are. And then how to get there.
That sounds like a pretty big goal. How do you do that?
First, when people come to see me as a licensed therapist in Pennsylvania, then they come in because they have a diagnosis or they think they have this, that, or the other thing, anxiety, depression, OCD, hair pulling, whatever it is, trauma. And then they come in, they tell me their story, and then I create the treatment plan and we go from there. So people call me for pain. They want to get out of their pain and I can help them do that. And then sometimes if I'm really fortunate, they want to do more. They want to find out, okay, now what am I supposed to be doing in life? And then it really gets cool because then we can dive deep to find out what their true passion is.
And speaking of your true passion, it sounds like it has matched with getting people out of pain from childhood until now. What would you say your dreams were when you were a kid?
I'm so glad you asked me that. When I was a child, there was a very important book, two very important movies. One was The Diary of Anne Frank, and the other one was The Miracle Worker. And then, of course, when they became movies, I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that I wanted to be involved in social justice. I knew that bigotry and inequality were horrible. So that created my mindset that I wanted to go out and make it right, make the world a better place to live in. And then especially with The Miracle Worker and watching that movie and watching Helen Keller be able to become this incredible person despite all her physical challenges, I thought, wow, if she can do that, if her teacher can help her through that, then maybe I can help somebody with something. So those two movies really planted the seeds for what was possible and how I wanted to help others.
How old were you when you saw those movies and that really connected and resonated with your soul?
I'd say the Diary of Anne Frank, I was 6 years old, but here's where it gets juicy. My father was Jewish.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's when I learned about the Holocaust.
At 6 years old.
At 6 years old. But I did not know that he was Jewish. Of course, anybody looking at him knew that he was Jewish, but he was my daddy. I didn't know that he was Jewish until he passed on because it was a secret in our family. Like, what the heck? Anyway, that's how I learned about the Holocaust with the Diary of Anne Frank. And to this day, anytime I see anything about World War II or the Holocaust or Schindler's List, I just sob and sob and sob because my father immigrated to the United States in 1939 to get the heck out of Stockholm, Sweden, because the Germans were knocking on the door.
And you never were able to have that conversation with him.
No, he didn't want to talk about it.
I can imagine.
He was a very quiet man. I mean, imagine being 29 years old, leaving your family. I mean, his wife and child then, my half-brother was 2 years old, leaving two brothers, your parents, and coming to America to start a business. He became a very successful businessman, but he left everything he knew and everybody he loved behind, except his wife and child, brought them. So I never knew any of this until, it's a really funny story in that, I don't know if you remember Howard Johnson's.
Yes.
Well, my mother and I were at Howard Johnson's one night and she said, "Joni, I have something to tell you." And I thought, oh my God, who just died? What? I'm 16 at the time. This is a year after my father passed. I said, what? She said, "Your father was Jewish." I said, "Is that it?" She said, "Yes." I said, "That's great. That's wonderful. I am so excited." But she thought I was going to be all upset. I was going to cry. No. To think that I had that as part of my heritage, part of my culture, is just an honor.
So you were instantly proud of that.
I was instantly proud of that. Yep.
And it sounds like that made a 10-year journey from seeing the Diary of Anne Frank to that moment just click into place.
Yes. And then, let's see, The Miracle Worker, when was that on? I think I was about 10 years old, because when Anne Bancroft and Patty Duke, what was that, 63, 64, something like that. As soon as I watched that, it's just, this is it. This is it. Watching how that was created. I loved Helen Keller. I just adored her. So those two were my mentors, Anne Frank and Helen Keller.
That's pretty fantastic of a beginning. Certainly having those stories and those people as mentors and heroes of a sort to click things into place early in life is a powerful moment and a powerful movement.
So I knew I was going to help people. That was it. And at the time, the only thing that there was either a psychiatrist when that wasn't happening or a social worker.
Right. So would you say there was anything else that shaped you from an origin perspective, the origin of Joan, if you will, that was a powerful piece of that stool, or was it really those things that pushed you forward?
Well, the other part is that, well, since my father died when I was 1 month shy of 15, my mother had 2 young children. I was 15, my brother was 11. I watched her create a business. And this is late 60s, 68, 69, 70. So the women's movement was just starting. So I'm just in pop culture land, and okay, here's Gloria Steinem. Here's Helen Reddy.
And
here's my
mom.
mother that owns her own business.
What kind of a business?
Real estate. She was in real estate.
It was a tough business to get into.
I know, this is before the internet.
Right.
But I learned that women can do anything. So if my mother could own her own business, I can own my own business. There was never a doubt in my mind.
So that was the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, would you say?
Yes. I did work for a company. I did have a boss for about 15 years. That was okay.
You say that without as much conviction. It was passable. It was, or like, it's like,
I learned a lot. I learned about customer service, contracts, getting things done, working with people, managing people, collecting accounts receivables. I learned a lot doing that, but that definitely was not my North Star.
No, it sounds a lot like when I asked my son when he comes home from school how his day was, and he says, reasonable. And it feels a lot like that. And so what then pushed you out of that into the world of your own?
2 things. One, people would come in and say, I'm getting a divorce and we need to break the lease. And I would say, have you considered marriage counseling? And I'm thinking, this probably isn't appropriate for this situation. I just need to help them get out of the lease. And the other thing was that I was pulling my hair all my life since the age of, I started when I was 11, but I was playing with it since the age of 2. So then someone brought in a book, The Boy Who Couldn't Stop Washing by Dr. Judith Rappaport from the National Institute of Mental Health, that talked about hair pulling as well as obsessive compulsive disorder. And then it was bam. Then I decided I wanted to get help. So fast forward, oh my gosh, that was 1989. I started the first support group in Pittsburgh.
So let's pause for a moment.
Okay.
And I, not trying to go too deep down the rabbit hole here, but I'm guessing much of our audience just heard you say, I was pulling my hair and I decided to get help. And there might be some dots missing on that path.
Sorry about that, everyone.
No, that's totally fine. The first time that I heard it, I was missing some dots because I hadn't heard of such a thing. Interestingly, when I shared it with my wife, she said, oh yeah, this is a huge issue. This is a big deal out there. And she was amazed I didn't know. So could you just fill in a couple of the dots as to what the issue is and what you maybe learned through it?
I'll be happy to. Hair pulling, also known as Trichotillomania, or body-focused repetitive behaviors, or the psychiatrists have coined it the hair pulling habit, is an addiction. And what this is all about is when people find comfort, it's a self-soothing behavior of playing with your hair, but then we really get into the manipulation of individual hairs or tying knots. We become hypnotized by our hair. We go into a trance. And then we play with it. And then it comes out of the follicle and it feels so good. This is not a painful process.
I'll say it seems like it would feel horrible, but I've heard similar descriptions from others who do behaviors that may be self-damaging, that it doesn't hurt to them as well.
Okay, and just to be clear, this is not a self-injurious behavior like cutting.
And I appreciate the clarification. I'm ignorant in this area, and we want to
No
be very
problem.
clear for everyone else.
Now, this is an addiction. It's a self-soothing behavior that actually helps people calm down or wake up. They don't even know they're doing it. Their brain goes into another world, and then they start doing this to help them concentrate, to help them relax, fall asleep, wake up, zone out, whatever it is. But unfortunately, with a behavior like that, it causes physical damage because you lose your hair, you become bald, and then it contributes to low self-esteem, anxiety, depression, frustration. If somebody types in trichotillomania on social media, there will be at least 10 pages that come up on this of people suffering from this. So social media is the new support group of the 80s and the 90s. But this particular problem I suffered from when I started pulling at age 11 when I was in middle school, and you can't stop. It's not about willpower. This is an addiction that works on the dopamine system of the brain because it feels so good. It's like telling a woman you can never eat chocolate again, or telling a child you can never have ice cream again, because you want it. You want that feeling. And there's a whole bunch of stuff, whether it's just coming out of the follicle, whether it's manipulating the root at the end of the hair, whether it's brushing across the lips, whether it's nibbling it.
So it gets very specific.
It gets very specific.
And what did you find was the biggest piece for you to stop? Because I noticed that you have hair now. So
yes, I do have hair.
You have stopped.
Meeting other people, not feeling like a freak anymore. So then when I met my dear friend, Christina Pearson, who started the Trichotillomania Learning Center, that was back in 1990. And here we fast forward. Once I met other people who did the same thing, I was validated, I was loved and accepted for who I was. And that was the secret sauce.
So the thing we need for so many reasons solved that larger problem for you.
Right.
That it's great that you found a path.
I started volunteering for TLC, served on the board. I'm still with TLC to this day. And now my mission in life, one of my passions is to help other people stop pulling out their hair and picking their skin, because if I can do it, I know how to help you out of it. So if you want some dots, there are some dots.
That's a pretty solid connected line now. I appreciate that. And very, very valuable. I'm sure that there are those who will listen to this who are struggling with these issues, and they're not who many of us may think or realize. I was completely unaware of this before I met you months ago, and I appreciate the knowledge and the connection. It was amazing to me that I was living with someone who is totally familiar with
it. No worries. We love to educate.
We appreciate that. So as you moved forward, what would you say was maybe your defining moment as an entrepreneur? You've done a lot of entrepreneurial things. What was the moment that crystallized, I'm an entrepreneur, this thing is for me, for you?
Interestingly enough, when I graduated Duquesne in 1994, looking for my first job, I went to work at a local psychiatric hospital here in Pittsburgh. I will not name names because everybody in Pittsburgh knows what it is anyway. And it didn't work. I was miserable. So I was also working for a nonprofit at the time, South Hills Interfaith Ministries, and I really liked that. But I was an entrepreneur because I only made money when the clients came in. I was not paid a salary. And I already knew how to do that because working at my previous career, I was only paid an hourly wage too. Dan, I don't know what it means to have a paid vacation. I don't know what it means to have things that people have when they work for companies, because that was never part of it. But when I worked for the psychiatric hospital in Pittsburgh, I hated it so much that I quit because they wouldn't allow me to teach emotional freedom techniques. So I quit that job and I said, that's it. Somehow I am going to make this work. I'm going to build my practice. I'm going to help people. and I'm going to do this myself because I'm an independent spirit and nobody is going to tell me what to do to help my clients.
So you mentioned emotional freedom techniques. Give us the 1 to 2 minute version of what you mean by emotional freedom techniques.
Emotional freedom techniques are Chinese medicine based in acupressure that calms the electrical system of the human body. Whenever somebody has a problem, it activates the amygdala in the middle of the brain, causing stress, causing cortisol, the stress hormone, to elevate. And then through acupressure, we tap on points on the head, face, under the collarbone, and under the arm, and we lower the cortisol and take the emotion away, take the stress out of, how do I want to say this? We remove the stress from the situation so people can think clearly to solve the problem or to relax, whatever they need to do.
And what I have seen, other than an entire room of people in Manila tapping themselves, is that when people feel stressed and you show them how to tap in the appropriate places, in the appropriate way, with the appropriate focus, that lo and behold, they feel almost magically better.
That's the plan.
That is the, I guess, the layman's version that connects. And for those of you who are listening who think that sounds crazy, understand I felt the same way as I headed to Manila. And having watched many of my friends, many of those I connect with, do this with Joan and have Joan show them and help them find freedom and lower their stress, it is a powerful tool. And while we haven't gotten quite that far in the story yet, Joan is truly one of the leaders in this practice in the world.
Thank you very much. I try, Lord knows I've been studying it and teaching it since 1996. So I've been on the scene a really long time, and I've had the honor of working directly with the creator, Gary Craig, back in 94, 95. So I know tapping.
That is very true and is a beautiful thing. It allows you to help so many. And as you've gone through this journey of helping more and more people, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned along the way?
Oh, that is a really good question. The biggest lesson is that it is possible to get through any challenging situation, whether it be tapping or anything else. And this has been one incredible year of a challenging situation. And I have been tapping myself, not quite, but almost black and blue. And I've come through the black hole. And now I'm thriving again. So it helps that. But what have I learned? That we as humans are meant to be kind to one another and help one another as best we can. And also that there is hope available. So if somebody says, I've tried everything, no, you haven't, because if you still have the problem, you haven't tried everything. Whether it's emotional freedom techniques or counseling or whatever it is. Me, I have a whole team. Functional doctor, doctor of Qigong medicine, chiropractor, nutritionist. It takes a village to keep Joan healthy.
I think it's a great image. I also think that it applies very well to the entrepreneurial mindset. If you're still encountering blockages, you just haven't found it yet. It's not that it can't be done.
Right.
You haven't found the right path yet. And it takes a team, it takes a village to get us through that journey as well.
Right. I sat down the other day and I created a whole new business plan. And I said, this is coming in, this is going out. And that felt really good.
So as you've done that, as you were recreating the new business plan and you think about these things that you've been doing running a company, has running a company been different than you thought it would be?
No, not really, because
you nailed it. You had it all along, right?
This has always been my dream. My horoscope, I'm a Leo. I was born in August. I'm so independent. Even my horoscope says you can't work for anyone else.
so, so there was not an option there, right?
There was not an option there. I can collaborate with lots of people. I can gain knowledge from a lot of people, and I need to learn from people. But I never had a question in my mind that I would own my own business and do my own thing and that I would succeed. There was never a doubt. It's just how I would succeed and how long it takes to succeed and on what level. So now I'm really excited to be on the international level. This is like, amazing.
So tell us about that step for you, moving from regional to national to international. What does that look like for you?
Oh, golly, Neds. To be able to meet with people all over the world. First, I mean, okay, I visited on vacation Canada and Mexico, but to be able to go to Manila, Philippines, that's the furthest that I'd ever gone. And if I had known that there were going to be other countries before I bought my plane ticket, I might have gone to some more countries too, but that didn't materialize. So what I learned was I can go anywhere in the world, either physically or through Zoom, and I can help people, and I can be a keynote speaker at any conference, any situation. I love this the ham that I am. I love being on stage. I love inspiring people. I love sharing my story with them so they too can know that there are no limits to what they can achieve. So just from Pittsburgh to the United States, it's so funny because, Dan, I used to be afraid to fly. I used to be terrified. And now it's like, oh, okay. Washington State, no problem. Whidbey Island, no problem. Sacramento, California, no problem. Ann Arbor, Michigan, no problem. It's just.
And pretty soon, tapping on Mars. That'll be a longer flight. So, as I think about a lot of the newer entrepreneurs in our audience, or those who are maybe considering starting their own thing, there are a couple of questions that I think of. The first is, what do you wish you'd known when you started?
I read that question earlier. I wish I had known that I can make my own decisions and I'm not tied into, well, okay, that we're going back to the beginning. I'm not tied into insurance companies because I thought I worked for them. No, they were just a means to an end. And I also wish I would have listened more if I knew I wasn't going to be able to help someone. Because in the beginning, I thought, I can help everyone. No, I can't. There were people that came into my office that I could not help, that I needed to refer out. And now I listen to my gut. For instance, I got an email today from someone, and I thought, okay, this does not sound legitimate at all. I'm not even going to respond. It's like I have $5,000 in an account in blah, 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 that only the way they phrased it was they were looking for counseling. And I thought, no, you're not. You're just trying to farm me out. Or now I listen to my intuition more. If I think I can help someone, I will. There was a young lady, for instance, who called me, but didn't leave a message. I called her back. She said, yes, I'd like to come in. She came in, but she was not appropriate for counseling, and she never came back. And that wasn't me. It just wasn't her time yet. So I wish that I had not called the number back. If someone is not able to leave a message on my phone, they're not ready to come in for outpatient counseling. They need more intense help than I can provide.
So what I hear is a lesson there is begin to understand your filters, understand who you are meant to help, who you are not meant to help. That's been a lesson for me. When I
Yes.
started Leaders Must Lead, the first year, everyone said, Dan, you have to know the group you help. And I said, no, because I can help everyone. And of course, if you try to help everyone, you end up becoming frustrated and overwhelmed and help no one. And it can spiral in a pretty bad way. If you know who you're meant to help and you connect with them, and you set up those filters and those qualifications in the right way, then you can make magic in the world. And I know that you've been able to do that for many.
Well, I am so blessed because I have the most wonderful clients in the universe. I just adore them. I can't wait for them to hear this podcast. Now, I have a little thing called HIPAA, so I can't have a party like you can have and have all my clients come to the party. But for all of you who are listening right now, who see me, I am so grateful that you have chosen me to help you, and I thank you so much. So I'm so blessed in that area.
That is amazing. Thinking again about those entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Now, we've thought about the clients, we've thought about the people that we help, and I think that's important. I also think it's important to consider the people who help the people, right? So like that's like yourself. What do you think is maybe the most important characteristic for an entrepreneur to have, to look forward and say, that person's going to be successful? That's the one thing they've got to have.
They never give up. They figure it out. They figure it out. If I get stuck on something, I pray, I tap, I talk to God, and then the next day I find the solution. So just because you can't figure it out today doesn't mean you won't be able to figure it out tomorrow. Don't give up. If you have a passion for what you do, if you want it, you're going to find a way to make it happen. And Dan will help you do that.
Thanks for that. I appreciate the plug. Are there, as you have tried to find solutions, are there particularly useful resources that made it easier to go after things?
Well, the first thing was a change in my mindset to be able to accept help. No, I can't do it all. I need to have very smart people around me. If I don't know the answer to this, then I need to be able to ask for help. And then the idea is, who is going to help me with this particular situation? Kind of a funny story in that I live in an apartment and I'm getting into plants. I was never into plants before, but I'm into plants now. So I brought home these plants and some of them died. Some of them didn't do too well. I thought, this is nuts. So I went back to the landscaper and I said, I need help. And these two ladies came down and we figured out how I was going to decorate my apartment inside and outside, the plants that were necessary, the plants that needed more water, less water, more sun, less sun. They put this whole thing together for me. And I am so excited to be supported because everything has energy and plants are, I can't have any pets in my apartment. So now I talk to my plants. Talk to God and talk to my plants.
I'm sure there are lots of places we could go with that.
But the point here is that there are people that can help you find solutions to your problem if you can't think of what it is yourself. Seek out smarter people, hang out with smart people like Dan and myself if you so choose, but particularly Dan, because I'm telling you, he's got, oh my God, his mind never stops. There are always people that can help you get to the next level. And there's always another level to go to.
I like the second part of that especially, right? Is that we get to one level and we see a certain degree of success, and it's easy for some to become complacent or just not to see the rest. I believe pretty passionately that we have a lot of self-imposed barriers in life, and that starts with something as simple as money. Just to give a very quick example for our audience, if maybe you made $50,000 US, and that's the most you've ever made in your life, then anything over $75,000 that you tends to feel like it's a fantasy, and anything under 25,000 tends to feel like it's really easy and you can help anyone do it. It's called the 50-50 principle, or at least that's what I've named it. And it is how a lot of self-imposed barriers work. And I think entrepreneurs get stuck so often behind their own barriers. And it sounds like that's what you're saying as well.
Well, when I was working for that real estate company, I topped out back in 1993. I was making, what was it, $11 an hour. Then at the psychiatric hospital, I was making $13 an hour. And now I'm making a whole lot more than that. And that's one of the reasons that I chose. Well, anyway, I'm of a certain age now. I'm collecting the wonderful Social Security, but I chose to wait until I was 66, when nobody could tell me how much money I could make.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, as you look forward and you consider all of these different programs that you work within and different ways that you help people, what does your dream look like now, whether it be for the company or yourself?
Wow. If I could take a peek into the future, I will create and license my own energy healing company. I have no idea what that is at this time. Right now, I want to build my brand, get the word out there, but I can see a point where I'm going to let other people take over and sit back and enjoy a cup of tea in the morning, not be able to put as much time in. I'm never going to retire. No, that's not happening. But I can see me building an energy healing world.
An energy healing world. I like that. I'm picturing the big globe at maybe Epcot or something, and there's you. Enter our energy healing world. I love it. Joan's world. Joan's world. There we are. When others, such as me, look at you and say, "Wow, Joan is incredible. Joan is someone who is an example, not just of following her dreams, but really an example of proof that dreams are real." How does that make you feel?
Well, humble. Dreams are real. I just never consider the concept that it won't happen. If I want it to happen, it's going to happen. I just have to decide what it is I want. So for anybody out there who is becoming an entrepreneur, it absolutely will happen. But you have to, here's the thing, you have to have faith in yourself. Be authentic. Be kind to people. Don't think that you're going to do this by yourself, because you're not. Appreciate the help that you get, and then in turn, pass that down. So the help that you receive from others, turn around and lift someone else up. Because if you're a jerk, then I guarantee you karma's a bitch and it's going to come and get you. But if as you are helped, so you must help others. So that's what I want to do. As I am blessed with resources, then I have different charities that I contribute to right now that I want to get, because money is energy, money flows. So, okay, pay my expenses, pay my bills, and then the rest goes to charity. And then if there's anything in another 40 years that's usable, recycle the good parts, burn the rest of me, plant me somewhere, and then I'll just go to wherever else I'm going.
Fair enough. And I love that intensity the intentional intensity where you say, I've never considered the thought that it wouldn't happen. It's just, if I decided, it will. I love that. That's a very powerful personal belief that has pushed you forward in some incredible ways. And it it seems that while you, as with anyone, have had some pretty significant challenges, and those have shaped you who you are, but you've also been pretty fortunate. And that leads us into our Fortunate Five, the 5 questions we ask everyone that reflect this idea that we are fortunate in the future. We've been fortunate. We've had some pretty cool experiences. So the first question of these 5 is, what is the most exciting or adventurous thing you've ever done? And I bet I know the answer to this question.
Yes, you do. Traveling to Manila was the most adventurous thing I've ever done. Standing in immigration, waiting to get through. And then I was in prayer, but they thought I was going to faint, so they put me in the fast lane. But yes, traveling to Manila, Philippines. That was the most adventurous thing I've ever done thus far.
And apparently we get a life lesson as well. Don't bribe the officials. Just look like you're going to faint and you get through immigration very quickly.
I closed my eyes in prayer because I'd been standing there already for an hour, and I thought, I don't know how much longer I can do this. And then somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, come over to this line.
Well, lessons learned, right?
Thank you, God. Yeah.
What is something that you wish you were good at but aren't yet?
Working on it. Cooking.
Cooking. Tell us more about that. What are you trying to cook?
Food.
Okay, so working our way up to edible is the first step. Got it. Okay. Is there a particular ethnicity of food? Or
okay, well, so in my past, someone else did the cooking for me. So now it's just me and God and I. So.
And the plants.
And the plants, right. I know now, I used to get the food delivery service, and now I know how to saute an onion and cut a carrot. So I'm good on that. And then I got an Instapot, and I love the Instapot. So learning how to use that, learning how to cook. So hopefully I'm getting better at this. And cooking and taking care of plants. Those are the 2 things that I'm working on.
Beautiful. Those are good skills to gain. I can do a little bit of one and none of the other. I can cook, but the plants, not so much. Speaking of food, what is the best either meal or food experience that you've ever had?
Dan, anything with chocolate.
Is there, at my own risk, is there a particular chocolate experience that calls out to you, or a favorite chocolate that you have?
Oh my gosh! Well, dark chocolate, of course. I've learned not to have dark chocolate before I go to bed at night. Otherwise, I have really crazy dreams, so that doesn't work. Chocolate lava cake. Oh gosh.
Well, you look like we've entered the happy portion of this podcast right now. You're going to be eating some
into
chocolate.
The chocolate zone.
That's right, the chocolate zone. Maybe that's what I should call this section. Forget the Fortunate 5. It's just the chocolate zone, right? I love it.
I've had some pretty fantastic meals, but anything that brings chocolate. And then maybe we could even go to a glass of, what is white Zinfandel? So we've got chocolate and white Zinfandel.
And then you're done.
I'm
that's
done.
It right there. Okay. Well, that's good knowledge to have. You've been to some fantastic places, but what is your dream travel destination? Where have you not been that you say, that's the place I want to go?
Oh man. There's some Australia. I know you've been to Australia. I really want to get down there. Medellin, Colombia, Aruba, of course, Hawaii. Everybody's gone to Hawaii but me. And you know where I'd really love to go? Alaska.
So a friend of mine was just there and posting pictures this week, some that were really happy about the place, some that were sad about the climate and the regression of the glaciers, but just stunningly beautiful. I have certainly loved Hawaii and Australia. In fact, one of our early guests, Ian Hawkins, lives in Australia. I sadly didn't have a chance to meet him when I was there. We missed each other, and that's how we became connected, is by missing each other there. So I'll see him when I go back. But Australia is a wonderful place. All of those are.
And then I have a client right now who's down in Australia. She's on a work-study program, so I meet with her through Zoom, and she's talking about studying the koala bears and the kangaroos. I said, "You're killing me."
Didn't you tell her about the travel surcharge for your next meeting?
And I'd love to go to Iceland too.
Oh, yes.
Iceland,
I'm very fortunate, and you may be as well, that I live in a spot, although I haven't been, that is a very inexpensive round trip ticket to Iceland. I believe I saw it for $310 just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my gosh.
And unfortunately, the timing did not work out, but I believe it would be a beautiful place to go. I have friends who've spent time there, and one friend who just went there for a jiu-jitsu tournament of all things.
Oh.
And I could go for that too. That would be fun. Last of our fortunate 5 is a fun one thinking forward. What do you hope or believe will be the most exciting invention of the next 30 years?
You know what I think? Well, 2 things. Definitely space travel for all of us. And then I was reading once where there is a young entrepreneur. This is my own selfish comfort level. There would be different sections of a plane. One section for families, one section is a restaurant, one section for adults, one section for children, and you could buy a seat in the section of your choice. There's my fantasy of the most exciting invention, but truly it's going to be space travel.
And do you see that as space travel in big vehicles, or are you thinking more personal suits, jetpacks?
Jetpacks.
Jetpacks. I'm ready for my jetpack.
I don't know that I'll be around, but I can foresee in less than 100 years that we will have, I know Dan Zahner's working on it, we will have places to live on Mars and the moon.
He is working on it, and we wish him the best with that. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. I feel excited about the idea of Mars, a little leery of signing up myself, so I might leave that for others. Those are certainly pretty exciting invention opportunities. As we wrap up, first, of course, I want to say thank you for being here. You've been incredible. But I also want to ask, is there a certain thought or message that you'd like to leave with our audience?
That anything is possible. You never give up. And there is such joy in this life. So if ever you're having a down moment, remember that it's only temporary. No matter how low you might feel, you will come out of it. There are people that can help you come out of it. But never give up, because life is to be cherished. We have a limited time on this earth, and I truly hope that you deserve love, you deserve kindness, you deserve health, and it's all possible. So I send everyone who's listening and watching, I send you joy, I send you health, I send you gratitude for listening and watching.
Beautiful message for sure. And for those who are seeking to find the amazing Joan, queen of emotional freedom techniques, podcaster extraordinaire, speaker, trainer, international traveler, and so much more, where can they find you online or otherwise?
Oh, thank you. JoanKaylor.com. JoanKaylor.com, or Joan@JoanKaylor.com. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. And they can find your podcast, which is
Life Without Limits, because there are no limits to what you can achieve.
Beautiful. Those are great places to see you. You are a wonderful person and a good friend. I treasure our connection. I thank you for being here and joining us today.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you everyone who's listening and watching.
All right, everyone. We'll talk to all of you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Dreams Are Real podcast. If anything we've said has inspired you to dream bigger, live more boldly, or move closer to your ideal life, please reach out and let us know. And also be sure to share this episode with a friend. We would be honored if you would like, subscribe, or leave a review for our show on your favorite podcasting platform. And for more discussion of this episode and all things related to the Dreams Are Real podcast, and to receive your free download of Dan's Defining Your North Star training, please join our Dreams Are Real community on Facebook. Until next time, be amazing and keep crushing it.